Elena's heart stopped when she saw the man across the crowded cafe, his arm draped casually around her mother's shoulder. She hadn't spoken to her mom in 3 years, not since the screaming match that ended with Elena slamming the door and vowing never to return. But there he was, Dr. Nathan Wells, the therapist who'd helped her unravel the pain of her closeted youth, now laughing with the woman who'd caused it. New York City buzzed outside the rain-slicked windows of the cozy Greenwich Village cafe where Elena sat, her fingers trembling around a steaming mug of chamomile tea. At 28, she built a life. She was proud of, a graphic designer with a small but thriving freelance business, a tight-knit group of friends, and a budding relationship that made her heart race in ways she'd never thought possible. But the sight of her mother, Linda, and Dr. Wells together shattered the fragile peace she'd fought so hard to create. Her mother's voice, sharp and judgmental, echoed in her mind. "You're confused, Elena. This isn't who you are." Those words had driven her to therapy, to Dr. Wells, who'd helped her accept her identity as a lesbian. Now the betrayal cut deeper than she could have imagined. Elena's gaze drifted to Maya, sitting across from her. At 30, Maya was a photographer with a fierce spirit and a laugh that could light up the darkest room. They'd met 6 months ago at an art gallery opening, where Maya's bold, colorful prints had drawn Elena in, but it was her warmth that kept her there. Maya's green eyes met Elena's now, sensing the shift in her mood. "You okay, love?" she asked, her voice soft but steady. I don't know," Elena whispered, her eyes flicking back to her mother and Dr. Wells. "That's my mom. And that guy with her? He's my therapist. Was my therapist." Her voice cracked and Maya reached across the table, her hand covering Elena's in a quiet gesture of strength. The cafe's warm glow felt suffocating now, the chatter of other patrons fading into a dull hum. Elena's mind raced back to her teenage years in suburban New Jersey, where Linda's relentless criticism had chipped away at her self-worth. "Why can't you be normal?" Linda had snapped when Elena, at 16, confessed her crush on a girl from her art class. The shame had clung to her for years, a heavy weight she'd only begun to shed in Dr. Wells' office. He'd been kind, patient, guiding her through the trauma of her mother's rejection and her own internalized fear. But seeing him now cozying up to Linda felt like a knife twisting in her chest. Had he betrayed her confidence? Shared her secrets? The thought made her stomach churn. Maya squeezed her hand tighter. "Talk to me, Elena. What's going on in your head?" Elena took a shaky breath, forcing herself to meet Maya's gaze. "My mom. She made me feel like I was broken for being who I am. Dr. Wells helped me see I wasn't. But now, seeing them together, it's like my past is mocking me." Maya's jaw tightened but her voice stayed calm. "You don't owe them anything. Not your mom, not him. You've built something real, something beautiful. They don't get to take that from you." Elena nodded, but the doubt lingered. She'd cut ties with her mother to protect herself, to escape the toxicity that had nearly destroyed her. But this was a collision of worlds she hadn't prepared for. She wanted to confront them, to demand answers, but the thought of facing Linda again made her chest tighten with panic. As the rain pounded harder outside, Elena made a decision. She wouldn't run. Not this time. She'd face her mother, face Dr. Wells, and demand the truth no matter how much it hurt. The next morning, Elena sat at her small apartment desk, sketching furiously in her notebook. Drawing had always been her refuge, a way to process the chaos in her mind. Her pencil traced the outlines of a woman standing tall against a storm, her face a blend of defiance and vulnerability. It was how she wanted to feel, but the knot in her stomach told a different story. Maya emerged from the kitchen, balancing 2 mugs of coffee. "You didn't sleep, did you?" she asked, setting a mug beside Elena's notebook. "Not really," Elena admitted, rubbing her eyes. "I keep thinking about what to say to them. What if Dr. Wells told her everything? All my sessions, my fears, my feelings about her." Maya sat across from her, her expression serious. "If he did, that's a violation. Therapists have ethics, Elena, but you won't know until you ask. You deserve to know." Elena nodded, her resolve strengthening. She'd always admired Maya's fearlessness, the way she faced the world head-on. It was one of the things that had drawn her to Maya, the way she lived unapologetically, her camera capturing truths others shied away from. Elena wanted that courage now. By noon, she'd tracked down Dr. Wells' office number and made the call. His receptionist confirmed he was free that afternoon. Elena's heart pounded as she and Maya took the subway to his midtown office, the city's hum a backdrop to her racing thoughts. She hadn't seen Dr. Wells in over a year, not since she'd felt strong enough to stop therapy. Now the idea of facing him felt like stepping into a battlefield. The office was as she remembered it. Soft beige walls, a plush couch, and a small table with a box of tissues. Dr. Wells greeted her with a warm smile, but it faltered when he saw the fire in her eyes. "Elena, it's good to see you," he said, gesturing to the couch. "What's brought you here?" Maya stayed by the door, her presence a quiet anchor. Elena sat, her hands clasped tightly. "I saw you with my mom last night," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. "At the cafe. You were together." Dr. Wells' face paled slightly, but he nodded. "Yes. Linda and I have been seeing each other for a few months. I didn't know she was your mother until recently, Elena. I swear." "Recently?" Elena's voice rose. "How recently? Did you tell her anything about me? About our sessions?" "No," he said firmly. "I would never break confidentiality. When I realized who she was, I told her I couldn't discuss you. She doesn't know you were my client." Elena wanted to believe him, but the doubt gnawed at her. "Then why didn't you tell me? You knew how toxic she was to me. How could you be with her?" "Dear." Wells leaned forward, his expression earnest. "I didn't know at first. When I met Linda, she was charming, kind. It wasn't until she mentioned you that I made the connection. By then I cared about her. I thought I could help her understand you better." Elena laughed bitterly. "Understand me? She spent my whole life telling me I was wrong for being who I am. You think you can fix that?" "I'm trying," he said quietly. "But I won't lie, it's complicated. She's struggling with her own guilt, Elena. She wants to reconnect, but she doesn't know how." The words hit Elena like a punch. Guilt? Her mother? The woman who'd called her an embarrassment? She stood, pacing the small room. She doesn't get to feel guilty now. Not after everything. Maya stepped forward, her voice gentle but firm. "Elena, you don't have to forgive her. But you need to decide what you want from this. Closure? Answers? Or just to walk away again?" Elena stopped, her eyes meeting Maya's. She saw strength there and love, and it grounded her. "I want the truth," she said finally. "From both of them." That evening, Elena stood outside her mother's apartment building in Brooklyn, the same one she'd fled 3 years ago. Maya was by her side, her hand a steady warmth in Elena's. The air was crisp, the city alive with the hum of traffic and distant sirens. Elena's heart raced as she pressed the buzzer, half hoping Linda wouldn't answer. But the door clicked open, and soon they were face to face with Linda in the cramped living room. She looked older, her blonde hair streaked with gray, her eyes wary but softer than Elena remembered. "Elena," she said, her voice catching. "You came." "I didn't come for you," Elena said, her tone sharp. "I came because I saw you with Dr. Wells. I need to know what's going on." Linda's face crumpled, and for a moment Elena thought she might cry. "I didn't know he was your therapist," she said. "Not until a few weeks ago. He told me he couldn't talk about you, but he said you were doing well. That you were happy." Elena's chest tightened. "You don't get to know that. You lost that right when you made me feel like I was nothing." Linda flinched, but she didn't look away. "I was wrong, Elena. I didn't understand. I was scared and I handled it terribly. I'm trying to be better." The words hung in the air, heavy with years of unspoken pain. Elena wanted to scream, to run, but Maya's presence kept her rooted. "You don't get to just say sorry and expect it to fix everything," Elena said, her voice breaking. "Do you even know what you did to me?" Linda's eyes filled with tears. "I know I hurt you. I know I pushed you away. But I'm learning, Elena. Nathan's helping me see things differently." Elena's hands clenched into fists. "He's my therapist. He was supposed to help me, not you." "I didn't plan this," Linda said, her voice trembling. "I met him at a community center, not through you. I swear." The room felt too small, the air too thick. Elena turned to Maya, her anchor in the storm. "I don't know if I can do this," she whispered. Maya's hand found hers again. You're stronger than you think. Whatever you choose, I'm here. Elena took a deep breath, her eyes locking onto her mother's. I need time, she said finally. I'm not ready to forgive you. But I'm here. That's all I can give you right now. Linda nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. That's enough, she whispered. As Elena and Maya left the apartment, the weight of the conversation settled over her. It wasn't closure, not yet, but it was a start. The city stretched out before them, vast and unforgiving. But with Maya's hand in hers, Elena felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she could heal without losing herself. The days following Elena's confrontation with her mother were a blur of emotions, each one sharper than the last. She sat in her apartment, sketching the same defiant woman from her notebook, but now the figure's eyes held a trace of uncertainty, mirroring Elena's own heart. Maya, ever her rock, suggested they take a weekend trip to the Catskills to escape the city's relentless pulse and give Elena space to think. The drive upstate was quiet. The rolling hills and golden autumn leaves a stark contrast to the concrete jungle they'd left behind. Maya drove, her hand resting on Elena's knee, while Elena stared out the window, her mind replaying Linda's tearful words. I'm trying to be better. Could she trust that? Did she even want to? They arrived at a small cabin nestled in the woods, its wooden walls glowing under the afternoon sun. Inside, the air smelled of pine and possibility. Maya set about unpacking their bags, her movements deliberate and calm, while Elena stood by the window watching the leaves fall. You're quiet, Maya said, glancing over. More than usual. Elena turned, her lips curving into a faint smile. I'm just processing. I thought seeing her would make things clearer, but it's messier now. Maya crossed the room, wrapping her arms around Elena from behind. Messy's okay. You don't have to have all the answers today. Her voice was a warm anchor, pulling Elena back from the edge of her spiraling thoughts. That night they sat by a crackling fire, sharing a bottle of wine and stories of their pasts. Maya spoke of her childhood in Chicago, raised by a single mother who'd embraced her queerness with open arms. She used to say, "Love who you love, kid. Just make sure they're worth it," Maya said, her eyes glinting in the firelight. I think you're worth it, Elena. Elena's heart swelled, but the weight of her mother's shadow lingered. I want to believe that, she said softly. But growing up I was told I wasn't. Not by my mom, not by the kids at school. Dr. Wells was the first person who made me feel like I could be enough. Maya's expression darkened. And now he's with her. That's a lot to carry. Elena nodded, staring into the flames. I keep wondering if I'm overreacting. Maybe he really didn't know she was my mom at first. But it still feels like a betrayal. Maya set her glass down, her gaze fierce. Your feelings are valid. You don't have to justify them to anyone. Not him, not your mom, not even me. The words settled over Elena like a blanket, warm and grounding. She leaned into Maya, letting the fire's warmth and Maya's presence chase away the chill of her doubts. For the first time in days she felt like she could breathe. Back in the city, Elena threw herself into her work, designing a series of posters for a local queer art festival. The vibrant colors and bold lines were a rebellion against the gray uncertainty in her heart. But every notification on her phone made her tense, half expecting a message from Linda or Dr. Wells. None came. One afternoon, while sketching in a park near her apartment, Elena's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Her heart sank as she read it. Elena, it's Linda. Can we talk again? I'm trying to understand. The message was simple, but it sent a jolt through her. She hadn't given Linda her number. Dr. Wells must have. Anger flared, hot and sharp. She called Maya immediately, her voice shaking as she read the text aloud. He gave her my number, Maya. After all his talk about confidentiality, he gave her my number. Maya's voice was calm but firm. That's not okay. You need to call him out on this. Now. Elena didn't hesitate. She dialed Dr. Wells' office, her hands trembling as she waited for him to pick up. When he did, his voice was warm, professional. Elena, I'm glad you called. Did you give my mom my number? She cut in, her tone icy. There was a pause, heavy and telling. I thought it might help, Dr. Wells said finally. She's been asking about you, wanting to make amends. I didn't share anything else, I promise. You had no right, Elena snapped. You were my therapist. Your job was to protect me, not play mediator for her. I'm sorry, he said, and she could hear the regret in his voice. I overstepped. I thought I was helping. Elena hung up, her chest heaving. She felt exposed, violated in a way she hadn't expected. Maya was at her side within the hour, her presence a quiet storm of support. You don't have to respond to her, Maya said, sitting beside Elena on the park bench. You set the boundaries. She doesn't get to cross them just because she's sorry now. Elena nodded, but the text burned in her mind. She wanted to ignore it, to keep the walls she'd built intact. But a small, stubborn part of her wondered if Linda was sincere. Was it possible her mother had changed? The next week was a whirlwind of emotions. Elena met with a new therapist, a woman named Dr. Chun, who specialized in queer identity and family dynamics. Dr. Chen's office was a stark contrast to Dr. Wellsbright, with colorful art on the walls and a warmth that put Elena at ease. You're allowed to feel betrayed, Dr. Chun said during their first session. But you're also allowed to decide what you want from your mother, if anything. The words stuck with Elena as she navigated her days. She and Maya attended the Queer Art Festival, where Elena's posters were a hit. Strangers complimented her work, their praise a reminder of the life she'd built without her mother's approval. But Linda's text lingered, a shadow she couldn't shake. One evening, as she and Maya cooked dinner together in Elena's tiny kitchen, Elena brought it up. What if I meet her again? She asked, chopping vegetables with more force than necessary. Not to forgive her, but to, I don't know, understand. Maya paused, her knife hovering over a bell pepper. If you want to, I'll be there. But only if you're sure it's for you, not her. Elena nodded, her throat tight. I think I need to know if she's really changed, or if this is just another way for her to hurt me. The decision was made. Elena texted Linda back, agreeing to meet at a neutral spot, a small park near the Hudson River. She didn't tell Dr. Wells. This was between her and her mother. The day of the meeting was crisp, the river sparkling under the autumn sun. Elena arrived early, Maya by her side, her heart a tangle of hope and fear. When Linda appeared alone, Elena's breath caught. Her mother looked nervous, her hands fidgeting with the strap of her bag. Thank you for coming, Linda said, her voice soft. I didn't think you would. I almost didn't, Elena admitted. But I need to know why you're doing this. Why now? Linda's eyes were glassy, but she held Elena's gaze. I've been talking to Nathan and I've been reading about what it means to be queer, about the things I said to you. I was wrong, Elena. I was so wrong. Elena's chest ached, the words she'd longed to hear now feeling heavy with the weight of years. You made me hate myself, she said, her voice steady but raw. Do you even understand what that did to me? Linda nodded, tears spilling over. I'm starting to. I want to make it right if you'll let me. Elena looked at Maya, who gave her a small, encouraging nod. I don't know if I can trust you, Elena said finally. But I'm here. That's all I can promise. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But as they stood by the river, the city humming around them, Elena felt a shift. The past wasn't gone, but maybe, just maybe, there was room for something new. The park meeting with Linda left Elena raw, her emotions a tangled mess of hope and skepticism. She'd agreed to keep talking, but each step toward her mother felt like walking a tightrope over a chasm of past pain. Maya, ever steady, reminded her to move at her own pace. You're not signing a contract, she said one night as they lay in bed, the city's glow filtering through the curtains. You can change your mind anytime. Elena clung to those words as she navigated the next few weeks. She and Linda exchanged cautious texts, small updates about their lives, Elena's latest design project, Linda's volunteer work at a community center. It was surface level, but it was something. Still, Elena couldn't shake the unease about Dr. Wells. His betrayal, however, unintentional, lingered like a bruise. One chilly November morning, Elena sat in Dr. Chen's office, her new therapist's calm presence a balm to her frayed nerves. I feel like I'm betraying myself by even talking to her, Elena admitted, twisting a tissue in her hands. But I also feel like maybe she's trying. And that scares me. Dr. Chun nodded, her eyes kind but direct. It's okay to want connection, even with someone who's hurt you. The question is, what do you need to feel safe? Elena didn't have an answer, not yet. But the question followed her as she left the session, stepping into the crisp Manhattan air. She met Maya for lunch at a diner near Times Square, the clatter of plates and hum of conversation grounding her. Over greasy fries and milkshakes she shared her fears. What if I let her in and she hurts me again? Or what if I push her away and regret it? Maya leaned back, her green eyes thoughtful. You're not the same person you were when you cut her off. You're stronger now. Whatever happens, you've got you and you've got me. Elena smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. Maya's unwavering support was a lifeline, a reminder that love could be steady, not a storm. But the shadow of Dr. Wells still loomed. She needed to confront him again, to close that chapter before she could fully face her mother. Elena arranged to meet Dr. Wells at his office the following week. This time she went alone, wanting to face him without the buffer of Maya's presence. The familiar beige walls and plush couch felt different now, less like a sanctuary and more like a stage for her unresolved anger. Dr. Wells greeted her with a cautious smile, but his eyes held a flicker of guilt. I owe you an apology, he said before she could speak. Giving Linda your number was a mistake. I thought I was helping, but I crossed a line. Elena sat, her hands clasped tightly. You were supposed to be my safe space, she said, her voice low but firm. You knew what she did to me. How could you think getting involved with her was okay? Dr. Wells sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. I didn't know she was your mother when we met. By the time I realized, I was already invested. I thought I could stay neutral, but I see now how that hurt you. Did you tell her anything about me? Elena asked, her heart pounding. Anything at all? No, he said, meeting her gaze. I've never shared details from our sessions. But I did encourage her to reach out to you to try to understand your perspective. That's why I gave her your number. It was wrong and I'm sorry. Elena wanted to believe him, but the trust was gone. I can't keep seeing you as my therapist, she said finally. Not after this. Dr. Wells nodded, his expression heavy. I understand. I hope you find someone you can trust, Elena. You deserve that. She left the office feeling lighter but still unsettled. The confrontation hadn't erased the betrayal, but it had given her clarity. Dr. Wells was human, flawed, and no longer her anchor. That role belonged to her now and to Maya. Over the next month, Elena and Linda's conversations grew more frequent, though still cautious. They met again at the same park, this time with hot coffee to ward off the December chill. Linda shared stories of her own childhood, of a strict upbringing that shaped her rigid views. I didn't know how to handle you being different, she admitted, her voice trembling. I thought I was protecting you. Elena's throat tightened. You weren't. You made me feel like I was wrong for existing. Linda nodded, tears in her eyes. I know. I can't undo that, but I want to try to be better. If you'll let me. The words were a fragile bridge, one Elena wasn't sure she could cross. But she agreed to keep meeting, to keep talking. Each conversation chipped away at the walls between them, though the foundation was still shaky. Maya was there through it all, celebrating Elena's small victories and holding her through the setbacks. One night, as they decorated a tiny Christmas tree in Elena's apartment, Maya pulled her into a slow dance, the radio playing softly in the background. You're doing something brave, Maya whispered, her lips brushing Elena's ear. I'm so proud of you. Elena's heart swelled, the warmth of Maya's arms a reminder of the life she'd built. She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was thriving, with or without her mother's approval. But the past wasn't done with her yet. A week before Christmas, Linda called, her voice urgent. Elena, I need to tell you something. It's about Nathan. Elena's stomach dropped. What about him? He's been pushing me to talk to you to fix things. But he's been asking questions. About you, about your life now. I didn't think much of it at first, but it feels off. The words sent a chill through Elena. Had Dr. Wells been honest about keeping her secrets? Or was there more to his relationship with Linda than he'd let on? She hung up, her mind racing, and called Maya immediately. We need to figure this out, Maya said, her voice steady but laced with concern. If he's crossing lines again, we'll deal with it. Together. Elena nodded, her resolve hardening. She'd come too far to let anyone, her mother, her former therapist, or her own fears pull her back into the dark. Elena's apartment felt smaller than ever as she paced, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. Linda's call about Dr. Wells had cracked open a new wave of doubt, and the betrayal she tried to bury resurfaced with a vengeance. Maya sat on the couch, her calm presence a stark contrast to Elena's restless energy. "We need to know what he's been asking her," Maya said, her voice steady. "If he's digging into your life, that's a problem." Elena nodded, her jaw tight. "I thought I was done with him. But if he's still meddling, I need to end this for good." They decided to confront Linda first to get the full story. Elena texted her mother, arranging a meeting at a quiet coffee shop in Brooklyn. The city was draped in holiday lights, but the festive cheer felt distant as Elena's mind churned with possibilities. Had Dr. Wells lied about keeping her secrets? Was he using Linda to get closer to her to assuage his own guilt? The questions gnawed at her, each one sharper than the last. At the coffee shop, Linda looked nervous, her hands wrapped around a mug as she sat across from Elena and Maya. "I didn't mean to scare you," she said, her voice low. "Nathan's been asking about your work, your friends, your relationship." She glanced at Maya, then back at Elena. "He says he's just curious, that he wants to know you're okay. But it feels personal." Elena's stomach twisted. "He's not supposed to care about my life anymore. He's not my therapist. He's your boyfriend." Linda's face crumpled. "I know. I told him to stop, but he says he feels responsible for you. Because of how things ended." "Responsible?" Elena's voice rose, drawing a few glances from nearby tables. "He broke my trust. He doesn't get to play the hero now." Maya reached for Elena's hand, her touch grounding. "What exactly did he ask, Linda? Be specific." Linda hesitated, then spoke. "He wanted to know if you were happy, if you were stable. He asked about your girlfriend, what she does, how serious it is." I didn't tell him much, but he kept pushing. Elena's blood ran cold. This wasn't just curiosity, it was invasive. She stood, her chair scraping against the floor. "I'm done with him. And if you're serious about fixing things with me, you'll keep him away from my life." Linda nodded, tears in her eyes. "I'm trying, Elena. I swear." As they left the coffee shop, Maya pulled Elena close. "We'll figure this out," she said. "But you need to protect yourself. If he's crossing lines, we can report him." The idea of reporting Dr. Wells felt daunting, but it also sparked a fire in Elena. She'd spent years rebuilding herself after her mother's rejection. She wouldn't let anyone, not even the therapist who'd once helped her, tear that down. The next day, Elena met with Dr. Chan, pouring out the latest developments. Dr. Chan listened intently, her pen poised over her notebook. "This sounds like a serious breach of boundaries," she said. "Even if he hasn't shared your sessions, his behavior is inappropriate. You could file a complaint with the state licensing board." Elena's heart raced at the thought. Would that ruin him? Dr. Chen's expression softened. "It would hold him accountable. But you don't have to decide now. Think about what you need to feel safe." Back home, Elena researched the process, her laptop screen glowing in the dim light of her apartment. Filing a complaint was complex, requiring evidence and documentation. She had no proof Dr. Wells had shared her sessions, only Linda's word about his questions. But the violation felt real, a betrayal that cut deeper because of the trust she'd once placed in him. Maya, sprawled on the couch with her camera in hand, looked up. "You don't have to do this alone," she said. "I can help you gather what you need. Or we can just confront him again. Make it clear he needs to back off." Elena smiled, grateful for Maya's unwavering support. "I think I need to face him one more time. Not for him, for me." They arranged a meeting at a neutral location, a small park in Midtown where Elena could keep her distance. When Dr. Wells arrived, he looked tired, his usual polished demeanor frayed at the edges. "Elena," he said, his voice cautious. "I'm glad you wanted to talk." "I'm not here to talk," Elena said, her voice steady. "I'm here to tell you to stop. Stop asking about me. Stop talking to my mom about me. You're not part of my life anymore." Dr. Wells' face fell, but he nodded. "I understand. I overstepped and I'm sorry. I won't contact you or Linda about you again." Elena studied him, searching for sincerity. She wanted to believe him, but the trust was gone. "If you cross that line again, I'll report you," she said. "I mean it." He nodded again, his shoulders slumping. "I respect that. I wish you the best, Elena." She turned away, Maya's hand finding hers as they walked back to the subway. The confrontation hadn't erased the pain, but it had given her power. For the first time, she felt like she was in control of her story. Christmas came and went, a quiet celebration with Maya and their friends. Elena's apartment was filled with laughter, music, and the glow of fairy lights, a stark contrast to the heavy conversations of the past month. But Linda's presence lingered in Elena's mind, a question she couldn't fully answer. They met again in January, this time at a bookstore cafe in the East Village. Linda had suggested it, remembering Elena's love for books. The gesture was small but meaningful, a sign she was paying attention. They talked about safe topics, books, movies, the city's endless energy, but Elena felt the weight of their past in every pause. "I ended things with Nathan," Linda said suddenly, her voice quiet. "After you told me how he'd hurt you, I couldn't stay with him. I want to do right by you, Elena." Elena froze, her coffee cup halfway to her lips. "You broke up with him?" Linda nodded, her eyes steady. "He cared about me, but he crossed the line with you. I'm trying to understand what it means to be your mom, not just someone who hurt you." The words hit Elena hard, cracking open a door she'd kept locked for years. She didn't forgive Linda, not yet, but she saw something new in her mother's eyes. Effort. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. As they left the cafe, Elena felt a shift. The path forward was uncertain, but she wasn't alone. Maya's love, her friends' support, and her own resilience were enough to carry her through. Winter melted into spring, and New York City bloomed with possibility. Elena's life felt fuller than ever. Her freelance design business thrived, her relationship with Maya deepened, and her sessions with Dr. Chan gave her tools to navigate the complexities of her past. But her relationship with Linda remained a delicate dance, one step forward, two steps back. They met regularly now, always in public space, parks, cafes, museums. Each meeting chipped away at the distance between them, though Elena kept her guard up. Linda was trying, sharing stories of her own struggles and asking questions about Elena's life with a gentleness that felt foreign but welcome. Still, the shadow of Dr. Wells lingered, a reminder of the fragility of trust. One April afternoon, Elena and Linda sat on a bench in Central Park, cherry blossoms falling like soft pink snow. Linda handed Elena a small package, wrapped in simple brown paper. "I found this at a bookstore," she said, her voice hesitant. "It made me think of you." Elena unwrapped it to find a sketchbook, its cover embossed with a swirling design. "You used to draw all the time," Linda said. "I thought, maybe you still do." Elena's throat tightened. It was a small gesture, but it carried the weight of memory of a mother who'd once noticed her daughter's passions, even if she hadn't understood them. "Thank you," Elena said, her voice soft. "I do." They sat in silence for a moment, the park alive with joggers and laughter. Then Linda spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm so sorry, Elena, for everything. I know I can't erase what I did, but I want to be someone you can rely on. If you'll let me." Elena looked at her mother, seeing the lines etched into her face, the sincerity in her eyes. Forgiveness felt too big, too final, but she could offer something else. "I'm trying too," she said. "Let's keep talking." "That's enough for now." Linda's eyes shimmered with tears, but she smiled. "That's more than I deserve." Back at her apartment, Elena showed the sketchbook to Maya, who was editing photos at the kitchen table. "She's really trying," Elena said, tracing the cover's design. "I don't know if I can fully trust her, but I want to." Maya set her laptop aside, pulling Elena into her lap. "You're giving her a chance without losing yourself. That's strength, love." Elena leaned into her, the warmth of Maya's embrace a reminder of the life she'd built. "I couldn't do this without you," she whispered. "You could," Maya said, her lips brushing Elena's forehead. "But I'm glad you don't have to." That night, Elena filled the first page of the sketchbook with a drawing of two women under a cherry blossom tree, their hands intertwined. It was her and Maya, a symbol of the love that had carried her through the storm. Months later, Elena and Linda's relationship had settled into a tentative rhythm. They weren't close, not yet, but they were building something Newa connection rooted in honesty rather than expectation. Elena no longer flinched at her mother's texts, and their conversations grew deeper, touching on the pain of the past and the hope of the future. Dr. Wells faded into the background, a lesson in boundaries and trust. Elena never filed a complaint, but she kept his promise to stay out of her life. Her focus was on the present, her work, her friends, her love for Maya. On a warm June evening, Elena and Maya hosted a small exhibition of their work at a local gallery. Elena's designs hung alongside Maya's photographs, a vibrant celebration of their shared creativity. Linda came, standing quietly in the crowd, her eyes bright with pride. When Elena caught her gaze, she smiled a small, genuine smile that felt like a bridge across years of hurt. As the night wound down, Elena and Maya stood outside the gallery, the city pulsing around them. "We did this," Elena said, her voice full of wonder. "All of it." Maya pulled her close, her lips brushing Elena's. "And we're just getting started." Elena looked out at the city, its lights a constellation of possibilities. She'd cut ties to protect herself, faced betrayal and confronted her past. But in the end she'd found something greater: love, resilience, and the courage to rewrite her story. It wasn't perfect, but it was hers, and that was enough. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.